Talking about God, I've been listening to this interview, right? Or I've replayed this episode of the Tim Dillon podcast a few times, and it's got me thinking a lot about selling out. It's got me thinking a lot about principles and morals. It's got me thinking a lot about what my price is, because I think everybody has a price. Everybody has a price. No one likes to admit it, but we do. We all have a price. This is why I hate hypotheticals. I think I was speaking about it in the barbershop one time. Big up F for Fade. Big up my barbershop F for Fade, right? The premier barbershop out there. Big up F for Fade. I was in F for Fade one day, not recently anyway, as you can tell by my hair. And I was speaking, and I think they were speaking about hypotheticals or something, right? And I remember going on a bit of a rant that I hate hypotheticals. Hypothetical questions like, oh, would you suck a man's dick for $100 million? Would you eat shit for fucking 10,000? Would you let somebody fucking run over your foot with a fucking bike? You know all those hypotheticals? I don't like them because hypotheticals are bullshit, because no one's really honest, and hypotheticals don't really kind of get to the point or get to the question, because the question's only pertinent when the proposition's right in front of you. So somebody has to have a suitcase full of 100 or let's say 5,000 pounds in fresh notes in front of you, and then next to him there should be a person that you're gonna lick the arse of, lick the toes, suck the dick, whatever it is, and then they'll ask you. That's when you're gonna get a real answer, if that money's right in front of you. If you're just debating and pontificating about all this shit, you're not gonna ever give the real answer. You're always gonna make yourself sound cooler, sound better than what you actually are. But really and truly, the truth of the matter is that most of us will do quite deplorable things if given the money right in front of us. If the money was right, it was tangible. You know what I mean? It was tactile, so you could feel it. It was right there. You could smell the notes. Most of us would do some pretty unforgivable things for that money, which is sad, especially when you consider the economy that we're in at the moment. So the reason why I say that is because the Tim Dillon podcast, episode number 459, Tim Dillon kind of responds to a lot of the backlash, concerns, and questions a lot of fans have, right, about why he's taking this gig in Saudi Arabia. Because in Saudi Arabia, specifically Riyadh, they're hosting a comedy festival. And essentially it's a who's who of comedians who are going. Every comedian that you know and love is going to be performing at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, right? So don't get me wrong. It's not only Tim Dillon. There's a bunch of people performing, right? As you can see here via the website, the festival lineup, you got so many different people performing, right? You've got Tim Dillon, Jeff, what's his name? Jeff Ross, Dave Chappelle. You got Fluffy, one of my favorites, performing. I don't know. Oh my God, you got someone called all these people are there. Jessica Kirsten, Aziz Ansari, Kevin Hart, Chris Stefano, Tom Segura, Joe Coy, Sam Morril, Hannibal Buress, Andrew Schultz, and Flagrant, Sebastian Maniscalco, Bad Friends, Bill Burr, Whitney Cummings, Jimmy Carr, Louis C.K., Pete Davidson, which is a weird one, by the way, because people think now so much time has passed by, right, that allegedly 9/11 may have been financed by the Saudi Arabia government. That's what people suggest, or at least the people that were behind it, or maybe not finance, people that are behind it were Saudi Arabia descent. And if you know anything about Pete Davidson, you'd know that Pete Davidson's dad, who he was very close with, don't get me wrong, he died when he was really young. He died in the Twin Towers. So people are looking at this like, fuck, you know, Pete Davidson, like, that government killed your dad. And a lot of these things are put on by the Saudi Arabian government. It's not put on by they're directly tied to this, because as an attempt to kind of whitewash some of their crimes and stuff, or just, present a better face to the Western media, or just attract more toy. I think it's all above. I think these things, like they do dance music festivals and shit, it's obviously modernize the country, whitewash some of its kind of, allegations and shit, and just make it an appealing place for foreigners to come to, right? Because, you want people to come there, spend their money and fucking, contribute to your fucking GDP and shit. So people are looking at Pete Davidson with a side eye, like, why are you performing in Riyadh when maybe Saudi Arabian government was involved in the death of your father and hundreds of thousands of people, others, Americans on that fucking tragic day. But he's doing it anyway. But again, I understand, because he's got, I think if I remember correctly, there was an article that came out recently that says Pete Davidson's struggling with money. I did see that. I remember seeing it somewhere, like a headline, that he's not doing as well as people think he's doing. That he's got a kid coming up. He's got a kid now. I think he's married. I think he's got a kid, or even, I think both. I think he's got a new girl and he's married, or he's got a kid coming up. Jesus Christ, why can't I say that properly? He's got a kid coming soon, coming up, dropping soon, releasing soon. And yeah, man, you know, it is what it is. When you have a, I really don't think, as a man, personally, as a red-blooded heterosexual man, I completely understand it when men especially do things that don't maybe line up to the principles or morals in order to support their family. Especially in an era that we live in where there is a prevalence of deadbeat dads. Deadbeat men and deadbeat dads. I think it's quite admirable when a guy swallows his pride, right? Puts his ego to one side and does something for the betterment of their family. So maybe it's not that surprising that Pete Davidson's like, you know what, I'm gonna go do this because that money that he's gonna be paid, he's probably gonna get a couple million. That might be the difference between, you know, him, you know, essentially having to sell his house and keep his family all in that one big house that he's got, you know? So I get it in that respect, but still dubious. Anyway, Pete Davidson's there. Mark Norman's also gonna be there. Russell Peters and Chris Tucker, right? So a bunch of big comedians are gonna be there. Legendary comedians, right? A bunch of big people are gonna be performing. And obviously Tim Dillon's also performing there. Now, it got me thinking in general about what your price is. And I want you, people in the stream chat, to tell me what you think your price is. Because I think we all have a price. People don't like to admit it. People are never going to say it. But I think we all have a number, a numerical number that would make us sell out. You know? If you're the type of, like, for me personally, like, let's say stuff like Palace, right? I've got I've made it very clear that I fucking hate Palace, right? And would never wear that clothes, even though I started wearing the clothes when the brand first started. Like, I bought 2 of the first t-shirts Palace ever made. Back in the day when they used to make t-shirts and they used to kind of print the Palace trifeg fucking logo on the back. They would basically they would buy t-shirts and turn them inside out and then print the logo on it. It was sort of like a nod to like DIY culture where you'd buy t-shirts from shops and then print your logo on the other side. So all my t-shirts from Palace had the seams showing, right? Because they were all printed on the reverse side. And then I bought a few other stuff from them too, but I bought a bunch of stuff from Palace. Then, unfortunately for me anyway, I had a very, I think, bad interaction with the founder of Palace when I was working at Nike. I was working at a store called Nike 1948 in Shoreditch. And again, it wasn't that bad of an, it was just an awkward, clunky one. But I don't like that sort of stuff because when I see people interacting with other people and they're all smiles and loves and they're all fucking jolly and it's easy, but then when it comes to me, I get like a weird, I don't like that. It's like, why do I get the frosty shit? Why am I getting the awkward shit and everybody else gets the lovey-dovey? Like, I don't like that, so fuck off. So that's when I decided never to wear Palace again. And since then, I've been on like a one-man mission to make sure everybody knows that I fucking hate Palace. Now, if Palace turned around to me tomorrow and said, hey, we want you to feature on our new lookbook, here's £100,000, would I take it? I could honestly say hand on heart I wouldn't. But I think I'm a little bit rare and unique that way. I don't necessarily think I have a number. Like, if there's someone that I don't like, if there's something that goes against my principles and my morals, I would rather sleep well at night than take the money. But I'm also, as I mentioned previously, hypotheticals are kind of useless unless you're presented with that hypothetical in real life. So until somebody stands in front of me and shows me the contract to model for Palace and then shows me also the bag of cash they're going to give me, I can't say whether or not I'll take it or not. But now I can say it, but I couldn't. I mean, it would be a bit disingenuous to say that sort of thing, or dishonest. But I think generally I wouldn't, because I think across the board, as you can see with how I ended up in my career, right? I think it's fair to say I don't usually take the easy route out. I don't usually take the sell-out, lick-ass way route out. I usually want to do it the long, hard, laborious, you know, fucking idiotic way to do it. So I don't really have a number. I don't have a number at all. I don't have a number. I wish I did. I don't have a number. But Tim Dillon does offer up an interesting proposition that everyone does have a number. And why should he be why should he be fucking flogged for having a number and accepting this Riyadh Comedy Festival gig when he doesn't give a fuck about their human rights violations? Because most of the reasons why I wouldn't go and do this is because I do give a fuck about that sort of shit, right? I do give a fuck about all of the numerous human rights violations that they've done. It's mostly, to be fair, the thing that would give me a pause is what happened to fucking Jamal Khashoggi, right? The guy went to the fucking Saudi Arabia fucking whatever thing in a car, and then left in the fucking suitcase. You know, left in the fucking suitcase. He went there in a car, left in a suitcase. That would give me rest. That would give me pause. But for Tim Dillon, he doesn't have any pause. He thinks it doesn't matter, and he explains it here in this particular clip.
To people that are in his prison. So you might as well have a couple of dollars to try to buy your way out of the Peter Thiel compulsory Antichrist lecture that he's going to be giving at his prison. Now, people might say to me, hey, you're coming out and saying you're doing the Saudi thing for money. They're paying you a lot of money. I'm not going to tell you how much they're paying me. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much they're paying me $375,000 for one show.
$375,000. Now, I'm assuming that's most likely an hour, right? I'm assuming it's an hour. Let's see. If we click on the Tim Dillon thing, I'm assuming this 375 is for 1 hour. I'm assuming it is, right? Let me scroll down. Does it have a time on it? Is there a time listed? There's no time listed on there. Get to know, directions. There's no time. But I can assume, right? Most likely, yeah, there you go. There's a time there. So what's that? Probably a 2-hour show. I don't think he's going to go for 3 hours. I doubt he's going to start from 9 to 12. But even still, let's imagine it is a 3-hour show. 3-hour show and you're getting paid $375,000. And you know the Saudi government are good for it. You know they're going to fucking send that money beforehand. You know they're either going to give you half up front. You know they might even send it right after you finish and wire it to your account. So they're good for the money. You know they're good for the money. So it's a bit difficult to sit there and say, oh, should he not take it when that's the amount of money on the line? Now, the issue that I have is that this is fucking Tim Dillon. This isn't some like open mic comic person. This is a guy who's very successful, done very well in his career, and he still feels the need to like take anything that comes his way. And it got me thinking in general about stand-up comedians. And I thought in general, like, the only people I think who are as money hungry, who don't say no to a bag, might be DJs. They might be the only people who are similar to comedians when it comes to never refusing a bag. Because I think comedians, doesn't matter who books them, doesn't matter how morally reprehensible they are, how fucking evil they might be, how dodgy they might be, whatever it is, as long as somebody's offering them a bag, they will be there. But then on the flip side, I'll play you another clip where Tim Dillon's talking to Joe Rogan about, Peter Thiel, and he basically reveals that he didn't go to a Peter Thiel dinner because Peter Thiel kind of basically freaks him out. And he also doesn't want to sit across an Antichrist guy, whatever. He probably just scared he's going to get kidnapped, whatever. But he generally didn't want to meet up Peter Thiel. And I think his defense for it was like, oh, I want to be able to take the piss out of these people. But if I meet them and have dinner with them, it's going to be hard because I like them and I'm friends with them, blah, blah, blah. But I find it interesting how he's wary of accepting money from Peter Thiel, but he's not wary about accepting money from the Saudi government.
Now, a lot of other people are getting $1.6 million. That's not me. I'm not in that bracket. But they're giving me $375. Others are getting $150. Why are they doing it? Here's the...
Throwing other people under the bus is fucking hilarious too, by the way. But that is interesting. He's not even the highest paid on the bill. I'd imagine people like Dave Chappelle are getting a lot of money. I'd imagine... Who else is probably getting a lot? Who's getting the 1 million? The 1 million probably goes to the Dave Chappelle's. Maybe Jeff Ross maybe might get that much. Being a marquee person. Maybe Louis C.K. will get that much too. I'd imagine Louis C.K. probably might be getting around the 1.6 millions. Who else might be getting that? Kevin Hart, of course, and maybe Joe Coy as well, because he commands. He's quite a big touring comic. Maybe he might be demanding that amount of money, and maybe Sebastian Maniscalco too. That's a big celebrity too. Maybe I think those guys, they're definitely getting $1 million. They're definitely getting $1 million, and also Russell Peters too. Because Russell Peters, I'd imagine, is probably quite popular in that region of the world anyway. But yeah, I could imagine those guys doing very well over there.
The point. Here's the point, okay? I am doing this because they're paying me a large sum of money. They're paying me enough money to look the other way. Do you understand? Look the other way. That's a 4-word sentence. that people don't do anymore. Look the other way. If something bad is happening to your left, look to your right. If, for example, I'm at a breakfast and I see someone get grabbed and they start hitting them with that, that big stick. I don't know if it's bamboo or whatever it is. It's kind of a wood, but it kind of snaps back. It's perfect for a cane. If I see someone getting it, I will look the other way, okay? If I look the other way and I see someone being behanded, meaning they're chopping a hand off, that might be interesting to just kind of see actually how they do it, because I think they do it kind of a sanitary way. But from what I've heard, if they're chopping a hand, I might look down. And if I'm looking at the floor and I see some beggar grabbing at me trying to get my money, I will look up to the heavens. And if in the heavens I see a drone flying over, I will look the other way because I'm being paid enough money to look the other way. What don't you understand? What is so complicated? I'm the only honest person just going to do it. Everyone else is going to have a million. They're going to go, well, actually, the Middle East is more progressive now, and he's trying to make some change. No. I'm being paid a lot of money to not care about what they do in their country. I mean, it's very simple. If you pay me lots of money, I will not comment on what's going on. In fact, I will ignore it. And if something that I really disagree with is happening, the more money you pay me, the less I'm going to think about it.
So, pretty honest and pretty upfront. You can't, hate on that one. But I wonder sometimes if this approach is just a way for him to not think about it, to feel somewhat okay with it, the decision, because deep down he does care, because he's an intelligent guy. He knows a lot about what's going on around the world. He reads a lot of news and shit. He doesn't like what's happening in Palestine, for instance. So if somebody has that sort of heart, has that sort of outlook, it's going to be very unlikely that they're going to be okay with the stuff that the Saudi government does to its people, the stuff that the Saudi government maybe is involved in around the world, and they're not going to be too pleased with it. So there is probably a moral inner conflict going on inside of him that he's trying to appease by going on this, like, oh, I don't care about anything sort of thing. He does care. When somebody talks about this, this way, this much, you care. If you don't really care, you probably won't even mention it. You just carry on doing what you're doing and not really give a fuck. But the fact that he's trying to explain it and make a joke out of it and take it to its extremes, I think he does care. And I think, let's be honest too, he wouldn't just look the other way if somebody got their hand cut in front of him. He'd probably faint. If he saw somebody getting beaten to the point of fucking mutilation, he would definitely faint as well. He'd probably freak out. So until you're confronted with these things right in front of you, it's very unlikely you'll know how to react, And someone like a Tim Dillon who, goes out of his way to live a very comfortable life, I think if he was presented or he was kind of put in a place where he had to confront some of that injustice, some of that poor behavior, some of that abuse, right, happening right in front of him, I don't think he'd be as cool or just chill, look the other way, nonchalant as he says here. I think he definitely would affect him way more than he fucking would like to admit. But he did admit he has a number, and his number is 375,000. Now, the funny thing is, there are people out there who are probably spitting feathers at Tim Dillon taking this Riyadh Comedy Festival gig, and they've probably accepted far less money to keep quiet. Even in workplaces, you see it all the time in workplaces. People have jobs, and instead of speaking up for an injustice, speaking up for somebody that is getting harassed, bullied, or is getting mistreated, they'd rather just keep quiet so that they can keep their fucking shitty job. Well, no, it's not a shitty job, but it's their job, but still, they're not even willing to give up their job that isn't really that important in the grand scheme of things. Yes, it's important to their life and keeping up their bills and whatever, maintaining what they do. But in the grand scheme of things, if somebody's getting, treated badly and it's obvious to all, you would think putting your salary or risking your salary by talking would actually be the right way to go about things. But people don't do that. People fucking don't do that. So I guess at least he's being somewhat honest about his way. I just don't think I have a number, man. I'm just trying to think about it now. I really don't think I have one. I really don't think so. I think I care too much, about sleeping well at night. I care too much about, going against my principles, morals and shit that I wouldn't ever do it. And I think that's a real big separator between people who become like who have some money, who are comfortable, and people who become rich. I don't think you can become wealthy doing this. You also have to kind of make something. But I think you can become very, very, very rich if you have an ability to look the other way. Because there are a lot of people who make a lot of money are usually involved in a lot of dodgy things. So if you can be one of the rare people that looks the other way, you'll be fine. Like look at the Nelk boys. They're a good example. Look the other way. Look how successful they are. Dana White does that a lot of people too. Dana White kind of rewards people that look the other way. If you don't really question what happens with fighter pay, if you don't question some of his behavior, if you don't question the UFC sometimes tactics and shit, and you just do what you do, he will reward you. He will let you know that, hey, thank you for doing that. I'm going to now make sure that you're looked after. So looking the other way can be very beneficial monetarily for your paycheck, for your whatever. But I'm just not that person. No? I could never, ever, ever be that person. Unfortunately for me, I think it's probably wise to do so, especially the older you get. You probably have other things to worry about. But when it comes to Tim Dillon, it's odd because he doesn't have any kids. He's on his own. It's strange that he's so, so fucking hell bent on making sure he accepts this money and takes this deal because it doesn't really affect him in the long run. Let's think of it. It doesn't really affect him in the long run. He probably makes enough from his podcast anyway, you'd imagine. But then again, maybe that's the problem in the first place. Maybe it's me suggesting or even intimating that he makes enough. Who am I to say he makes enough? What is enough, For you and I, a regular person, maybe making a certain amount is enough. But for these guys, it doesn't seem like it, which is why I say they are probably the greediest people I've seen when it comes to securing a bag. I thought DJs were quite greedy because I think during the Playgrave, you saw a lot of DJs deciding like, fuck it, I'm going to play in a third world country. I'm going to maybe spread COVID further because I need to make sure that I play and I need to make sure that I get my account going. And some of these guys and girls are like, they get paid like 30 grand for like a set. And it's like, brother, you really don't need this money, man. You really don't. Like, missing a couple gigs in fucking Bali isn't going to make you bankrupt all of a sudden. So it's funny that someone like a Tim, again, who probably makes easily 375,000 from his podcast maybe every 6 months or so, right? I'd imagine he probably makes it every quarter on his podcast. Taking this deal from the Saudi government just seems a little bit unnecessary, But again, one of the things that I think I as well forget is that sometimes, or most of the times, the rich get richer. And how do they get richer? They get richer because they get the most opportunities, which is odd. That's how it works out, really. You struggle and scrape. You really go out of your way to try your best to hustle when it comes to your life and shit. But really and truly, the opportunities that you want when you're struggling or coming up, they only really get presented to people who already made it. You don't really get those opportunities. That's why usually you see the same people at the same events, the same people at this stuff, the same people getting seeded, whatever. You don't really see new people because the rich always get richer. So weirdly enough, even though the rich have the most money, if somebody keeps offering you more money, you're going to take it because, you need them. You need it. Why not? I'm going to fucking take it because I need it. Or because you're giving it to me anyway. Why the fuck not? When really and truly, I'd understand this Riyadh Comedy Festival more if they book people who are like not that well known, who need the money. But then again, if you're the Riyadh or if you're the Saudi government and you're trying to increase tourism to your country, you wouldn't hire some open micer to come and do your thing because no one gives a fuck about them. You're hiring these people because they're international names, because they're going to sell that bitch out, blah-de-blah, blah-de-blah. Anyway, last clip on this is regarding the Joe Rogan experience when Tim Dillon was on there the other day. And again, he speaks a little bit about, his decision to perform for the Saudis. But in this particular clip, he makes a point of like stressing that performing for the Saudi government, he's not scared about performing for the Saudi government, but he's more scared about having dinner with Peter Thiel. So interesting little contradiction there. But let's play the clip anyway.
And I want that to be
misunderstood.
I want it to be destigmatized.
Right. If Satan could go on the Nelk Boys, maybe they could straighten it out.
That's right. Peter Thiel on the Nelk Boys, when they go, what do you think about fast food? And he goes, I take one pill every day to survive. And it gives me all of my nutrients.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Peter Thiel eats food like a person. I think it's like he has some type of...
What? What do you think?
I think a lot of these tech people, they don't like food. They're not food people, a lot of these tech people. I went to a few of these tech things in Austin. The food's never the thing. They're not like food people. They're not like, ooh, let me eat food. Like wasps are not either. Like real old school, like waspy.
Didn't you get invited to have lunch or something, or dinner with Peter?
Yes, I said no.
Did you?
I said no. I'm a little wary of that circle of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying there's anything inherently evil about them because obviously there's people in there. I don't know that I want to go to a dinner with someone who's going to talk endlessly about the Antichrist.
But yet you'll go to Saudi Arabia.
Exactly.
Of course.
And perform.
Of course.
Exactly. Look at the hypocrisy. So you're scared of Peter Thiel, but you're not scared of the Saudi government who've literally murdered people. Don't get me wrong, Peter Thiel's probably murdered people too, I'd assume. But the Saudi government have definitely murdered people, and you're not scared of them.
I've been to Peter's house twice.
Yeah.
I went once with dinner with
By the way, that's an interesting development. Rogan's been at Peter Thiel's house, which probably explains the softball interviews that he gives Peter Thiel, right? And the fact that he doesn't really push back on him at any point, doesn't really, ask questions, just seems to be like two guys hanging out because they're actual friends. So he's been to his house a few times. Interesting. He's definitely cozying up with the oligarchs, Al Rogan is, isn't he?
Eric Weinstein, I forget who else. And then the second time he brought me in because they were going to have lunch with Eric Von Daniken.
Oh, the guy, the Chariots of the Gods.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in. And I know so much about that.
Yeah.
So I was asking him all these questions.
I'm sure he's a very nice guy. Like Peter Thiel. People
He is a
that
nice
know
guy.
him
I've
go,
had
he's
him
a
on the
nice guy.
podcast.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
I get invited to a lot of dinners and a lot of things. And what I try to do is I try to say to myself, I need to be able to criticize people and
Right.
make fun of them.
Right.
So, it felt like really weird to go to this guy's house and then shit on him the next day.
Again, doesn't make any sense. He's okay to go to perform for the Saudi government, but then feels a bit scared to go perform for okay to perform with the Saudi government, scared to go and hang out with Peter Thiel at his house because it might affect the way that he jokes about him. But he's joking about the Saudi government. He's taking the piss out of some of their crimes against humanity and shit. He's taking the piss out of some of the people that they might have murdered. Like, Jesus Christ, I don't know. The contradictions and the hypocrisy are all over the place. I guess it's a good thing that at least he's honest and he comes up and I don't think you're ever going to hear a single comedian speak as honestly as Tim Dillon has about why he actually decided to accept that gig at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. At least he's honest enough to say, hey, I'm accepting it because these motherfuckers are paying me a bunch of money. You have to kind of respect that at least. The other comedians are going to give you a lot of spiel about this and that and make, try and make light of it, which makes no sense. I really actually want to hear Pete Davidson's point of view because there has been that meme, there has been that thing people have been saying about, oh my God, your dad died in 9/11 and now you perform for the people that may have killed your dad. Right? There is that thing I've been hearing people saying online. So I'd love to hear him respond to that. Like, why, has he seen that? Is that okay? But yeah, I don't know. It's a strange thing. Interested regardless. And I would love you to think about what your number is. Because I think we all have one. There are a few of us, myself included, weirdly enough, right? Isn't that fucking convenient? But there's a few of us who are special who don't have a number. I don't have a number. But I think my career has shown that. I think my career or lack of a career has definitely illustrated that I am willing to sort of say no, even if it fucks up my pockets. I'm willing to walk away, even if it fucks up my long-term fucking career goals, I'm willing to walk away. And if I don't like somebody, I just won't do it, simple as that. I'm one of those type of people. I can't just put my feelings to one side. If I generally dislike you and I hate you, I just can't be seen with you doing anything cool, doing anything fun, money. I just can't do it. So I think that's also a bad thing though. I'm talking about it like I'm happy about it, but I'm not really. I think maturity and wisdom and growing up as a human being is being able to do that, being able to put the interests of your family, being able to put the interests of your people, being able to put the interests of your own future ahead of maybe your ego and your pride and whatever else it may be. Because that's what it is. Ego and pride won't allow me to kind of, or just, or having morals and principles too. Not even ego and pride. They won't allow me to do certain things, but I'm sure there are most of us out there that probably would, even the ones who are lying. So let me know what your number is. Let me know what your number is. But there is an article here courtesy of Seth Simons. Big up Seth Simons. Big up Seth Simons, right? I haven't heard his name in a long time. He's been a very, 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 very strong critic of stand-up comedians regarding how they act and shit, standard stuff. He's been talking about it for a while. He's a journalist more, so he doesn't do video content, so maybe that's why a lot of his stuff doesn't go viral. But he does talk a lot about comedians and, stand-up comedians, what they do right, what they do wrong. So he wrote this article for his Substack newsletter called Humorism. The title of it is Here's How Comedians Are Rationalizing Taking a Paycheck from Saudi Arabia. So he obviously broke down how everyone's response has been, and I'm curious to see what he wrote. For some reason, he transcribed it. He didn't include the clips. I don't know why. Maybe he doesn't want to get copyrighted, but he transcribed all their answers and didn't actually just put the clips in there. But anyway, let's just check it out anyway. Let's see what he said. Given the apparent tension between Saudi Arabia's notorious human rights abuses and our current crop of A-list comedians' professed belief that art form is a vanguard to liberty, I've been keeping track of what comics booked on the Riyadh Comedy Festival have been saying about it. What I have gleaned, and this may shock you, is that they are greedy, amoral narcissists who don't believe in anything, let alone what they claim to believe, who they sneer at, a very idea of maintaining any sort of personal value system. Now, I personally don't mind that. I don't really want my artists to believe anything. Like, I'm really strange in that way. I don't want my artist, I don't want my entertainment to believe anything. I want them to be apolitical. I want to go to you for my art, for my entertainment, for my escapism. I don't necessarily want you to espouse or reflect my political views and viewpoints. Now, I do respect people who want that, because those people are very, they're very wedded to their ideas and what they like. So if an artist or somebody that they like doesn't espouse, doesn't reflect the political leanings that they are on, they will stop listening to that person. They'll boycott, which I think is really cool. I think the ability to be able to boycott an entire institution, to boycott an entire genre of music because it doesn't line up to your politics and stuff is fucking admirable. But overall, I would prefer it. I would personally prefer it if artists were apolitical and there was no politics involved in the arts whatsoever. It was just purely an entertainment thing, so that you could kind of go to it for the escapism nature of it. Yes, some of it may reflect what's going on in the world. They can speak about it, but I don't necessarily want to be preached to, lectured to, told who I should vote for, all this sort of stuff when I go to a show, personally. Let's continue. I would like to share some recent commentary on the subject with you today, arranged from the most sociopathic, he says here, Jim Jeffries, Tim Dillon, to the least sociopathic, but still pretty sociopathic, Peter Stefano and Mark Norman. Let's start with Jeffries' appearance on the latest episode of Fear of One's podcast. Let's go. The quote: I'm going to this thing in Saudi Arabia. I've been given a bit of grief online, nothing too much. About going to Saudi Arabia, Fear of One says. Jeffrey says, yeah, a few people have gotten into the comics who are going, and the list is big. It's Louis C.K., me, Bill Burr, Fluffy's going, Whitney. I like how he's mentioning all the big ones, by the way. A lot of comics are doing that. A lot of comics are kind of hiding behind the bigger names. So I wonder how the Saudi Arabian government approached it. Did the Saudi Arabian government call up the bigger names, knowing if they get the bigger names on board and then they pitch the smaller ones, they're likely to take it because the bigger names are going to get the arrows? Or did the smaller comedians who are probably more money hungry accept it, and then the bigger names are told and they're like, oh cool, no one's going to come after me because the smaller comedians are doing it? I wonder which, or did they just approach it across the board? But to be fair, I think the Saudi Arabian government or the Middle Eastern people, they know Western people talk a lot of shit. Western people love to get on, like Westerners love to get on our soapbox. We love to rant and moan and complain and hashtag. But when it comes to actually doing the thing that is like turning down the money, most of us can't, I think they know that intrinsically. They know Westerners are full of shit. So if they were to offer some of their strongest, like even a guy like Hassan Piker or stuff, right? Like if he was offered like millions from the Israeli government to shut the fuck up about Israel and stop talking about Zionism and shit, I think Hassan Piker will take the money. He talks a lot about, being a freedom fighter, doing this for the Palestinians and shit, but I kid you not, if Netanyahu himself got in touch with Hassan Piker and said, hey, here's fucking $20 million, tax-free, whatever, for you to shut the fuck up about Israel, shut the fuck up about the IDF, shut the fuck up about Gaza, I think he'll take it. And I think they know that. Anyway, back to the article. Von says, oh, a big festival is going. I didn't even get invited. Jeffrey says, it's called the Riyadh Comedy Festival. And here we go. Andrew Schultz, Aziz Ansari, Bill, wow, we got people. Great lineup too. Jessica Kirsten. Yeah, it's good lineup. I've seen that my comedy it's as good as a lineup as I've seen at any comedy festival. Now people have been going, oh, how dare you go there after, oh, they killed a reporter. That was a big one. There's been a reporter who they killed. You don't think our government's fucking bumped people? Oh, I think Jeffrey Epstein was fucking bumped off. You know what I mean? Again, no one is saying that countries don't bump people off, right? Again, bump people off is a fucking weird thing. What people are saying are the human rights violations that they've enacted, especially the Jamal Khashoggi thing. He was an innocent journalist. He did nothing wrong to deserve that. Zero. right? Zero. Some people can maybe justify the Jeffrey Epstein killing as well, but maybe he should be tried in a court of law. But nobody's saying that countries don't get people whacked, don't get people assassinated. What people are saying is that Saudi Arabia are clearly doing this comedy festival in an attempt to whitewash the world of their crimes. Because if they keep doing these things and inviting these big guests and having foreigners travel over there to, to attend these events, it's going to give people the impression that the Saudi government doesn't do the fucked up things that they do. So you are complicit in the essential erasure of some of Saudi Arabian's government's crimes. And again, you're not allowed to care about it, but let's not compare. Let's not do the whataboutisms. I prefer if Jim Jeffries just said, look, I don't give a fuck about what they did to Jamal Khashoggi. It wasn't me. I wasn't in that room. Just say that. You're better off saying it wasn't me. I wasn't in that room. I'm not a journalist. I'll be fine. Saying, our government bump people off too. It's like, that's not really the point though, isn't it? The point is you're participating in this is a form of propaganda in itself. That's the reason why people are upset about it. But whatever. It continues. Jim Jeffries again says, one reporter was killed by the government. Unfortunate. That's an understatement, isn't it? Unfortunate, this fucking reporter that went to the fucking Saudi Arabian fucking government, right? Arrived there in his car. You see him on CCTV. And then allegedly left in a fucking suitcase. Right? His body fucking mangled and broken and twisted and fit into a suitcase that was then dumped into the back of a boot of a car. Like, yeah, that was unfortunate. Unfortunate. What an understatement. Unfortunate, but not a fucking hill that I'm gonna die on. Well, that guy's dead, by the way. And I don't know the ins and outs of the government. I don't know what he did. Maybe he deserves to get killed. So then they get into the live golf, right? All the golfers up in Saudi Arabia for a king's ransom amount of money. Everyone's like, how dare they do that after how they treat people and all that type of stuff. And the people are like, all right, they've got Cristiano Ronaldo. He goes over and plays there being paid and he gets extra 100, 200 grand every time he kicks a ball. But people, I don't know what, honestly, I don't understand this defense. Nobody is saying that the other people that do it, there's not other people that do it. Like, just because other people that do it doesn't mean that you're not going to get like, we live in an interesting world, isn't it? We live in a world where people are willing to sell themselves out. They're willing to do morally questionable things for the sake of a paycheck. But then they're also really pissed off when people call them out on it. If it's me and I'm doing what these guys are doing, you have to understand, you have to accept that you're gonna get killed on social. Now, it doesn't matter in the real world because in the real world, you're gonna have a couple more zeros added to your bank account. But if you accept this gig, you're gonna get fucking killed. That's okay. You should be okay about that. You should be weighing up your pros and cons and be like, you know what? One of the pros is I get this money. One of the cons is I might lose some fans and I'm gonna get abused for like 2 weeks. That should be okay. What is not okay is accepting the money, but then complaining about the abuse. Motherfucker, like, that's what comes with the gig. Fiovon talks to him and says the following. He was like an SPFA fee, I heard. Even just putting it before the games, they pay him extra to do that. Jeffrey says, so he's living there. He's engaged to his missus, but they've never gotten married, right? He's the first person in Saudi Arabia who's allowed to live in a woman who's not married. They made the session. They've gone all right for Ronaldo. He can do it. They have strong rules over there, Von says. So you can be angry at how they treat people, how they treat the reporter. You can be angry at the golfers. You can be angry at things. But what better than basically we are freedom of speech machines being sent over there. They have not one stage asked for to see our material. They haven't asked. In some countries in Asia, I've been asked for transcripts of what I'm going to say. So he's trying to say, so he's doing the defense of like, I'm going over there to basically spread the gospel of freedom of speech. I'm going over there to liberate them because I'm going to be allowed to say what I want. Come on, brother. Come on, man. No one's bringing you over there to kind of teach them a lesson on fucking humanity. No one's going over there for that. No one's inviting you there for that anyway. Right. They haven't asked what we're going to do. Let's be fair. They have picked some fucking edgy ass comedians. They've picked if you don't agree with how they run their place, isn't this a step in the right direction? No, it isn't. That's not a step in the right direction. A step in the right direction is for them to answer for their crimes. That's a step in the right direction. That's a step in the right direction. Comedians are the step in the right direction. You are not the fucking frontier. You're not fucking pushing things. You're not doing anything really. Yeah, this is a sign that they're trying to do something different. This would have been the highest ranks of government would have been right. Anything more from Jeffries? Fiavon says to him in reply, and to say things we want and then judge other places. Like I get judging them, but their rules. That's what that makes their culture, right? What makes their culture is killing journalists. Okay, we may not agree with some of them, and some of them may deem wrong. But for a country, that's what's going on, right? Now, some of them, I get it. It's like what's wrong. It's fucked up, but sometimes they're just attacking the kind of culture of, I don't know. Fear talking about his ass here. But yeah. Okay, the Tim Dillon one we already read. We don't want to read the Tim Dillon one. We know what he said there. I'm curious to hear what De Stefano's got to say. What's De Stefano? Let's see what De Stefano has to say about it. De Stefano, are you going to Saudi Arabia? Are you going to do that gig? He says, I can't do that, man. I can't do it. Can't take the Saudi money. Can't do it, man. I get it. I can't. De Stefano says, I didn't want to do it either. But my family, I was contemplating. I was like, maybe not. Then Jasmine was like, well, we're getting married. We got the house. Who knows? We'll probably sell it again. I was like, I can't do it. Then she's like, you're going to have to take that fucking money. So Chris De Stefano's wife is the one that told him to go do the gig. Which makes sense. I think most people's wives would probably tell them to go do it. Especially if you got kids and shit. You'd probably be told, hey, look after the family. And again, I don't besmirch anybody, especially a man who's taking that responsibility to look after their family, because we've got enough days out there. So there's men out there who are willing to sacrifice themselves and their reputation for the betterment of their family. Then you've got a lot of credit. You know what I mean, I respect you very highly as a man if you're doing that. So okay, they continue. Starvey says yeah. De Stefano says, and I was like okay. Starvey says you're gonna have a maid that doesn't have access to a passport. De Stefano says yeah. Starvey says whether you like it or not, a Filipino woman who's trapped in the desert can never see her family again. Exactly. De Stefano's like, well, what's good about the gig like that for me personally is this one where it's not like there's no question Jasmine can't come. That's funny. That's funny. One of the best things about it is that he can't bring his wife. He's gonna be there by himself. He's gonna get some alone time. Starby says yes, there's no more endangered species than a mouthy Puerto Rican woman in Saudi Arabia. This episode, it wasn't even a question, because normally when I go overseas, it's like, Jas, it's like, if you do come, just know you're coming back headless. And Starby says, yeah, that's fucking hilarious. It's definitely, yeah. So that's actually a good one. I don't mind that. What do you say here? This definitely, I think too, man, with the world the way it is, it's like, that's how I feel. It's like you go down this rabbit holes, then you're like, even like, I was giving money to the green initiative, then something pops up where it's like, this is a scam. You're giving money, then you'll try to do the work to look into it, and it's not. And then you just get exhausted, and you're like, dude, I don't know anymore. So he's basically trying to say, I tried to do the right thing. I tried to do things the right way, and it didn't benefit me in any way, shape, or form. It didn't go well. So now I'm going to throw my hands up and just kind of submit to totalitarian rule. I'm going to submit to authoritarianism. I'm going to submit to fucking human rights violations, because why the fuck not? What I think actually happened though, is this. I actually think a lot of these comedians' brains got broken because of COVID. I think the inability for a lot of these comedians to have access to the cash or have any cash that would allow them to do what they want broke them. Because that's what happened in COVID. During the COVID lockdown, if you had money, you could circumnavigate, avoid COVID lockdown restrictions. You could basically live a life where life was quite normal for you. You could go to certain countries, certain villas, certain resorts, and essentially people were acting as if the world was back to normal. So people got upset that they weren't able to do that, especially comedians. Like, oh man, I don't have the fun to do that. So I think comedians now, especially guys like Tim Dillon, they're like, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I always have the money to escape when I want to. That's essentially what happened. I think so. I could be incorrect, but I think that's what happened. Which is why you got some of these money-hungry comedians doing what they're doing now. You'll note that DeStefano said he didn't want to take the gig, but his wife told him to do so. On one episode, History Hyenas released on his. So yeah, okay, so he lied then. On the episode of History Hyenas released this week, featuring Joe DeRosa, he offered a somewhat contradictory take that his family was upset with him for taking the gig. He also struggled mightily to pronounce the word Riyadh, even when it was screened right in front of him, somehow saying it Riyadh. So let's see what he said on his own podcast. In 2 months, I got a show in Saudi Arabia, so I don't know. I don't want any clips to be pop up on the airport. Wait, do you really? He said, yeah, swear to God. They're doing a comedy festival there. Oh God, dude, that sounds awful. That sounds like a terrible idea. You think? Yes. In Saudi Arabia, I mean, you wouldn't go. I said, dude, I mean, you wouldn't do it? That's like saying, just go and bomb. Just don't say anything. Right. I could just go and talk about Puerto Ricans, right? The Rosa says, yeah, no, you wouldn't do it. You know the way you talk for the right number, you wouldn't do it. The says the Rosa. The Rosa says, dude, that's like saying, dude, I don't know. That's like going through, to me, that's like, there's a nice restaurant, but you got to walk through a real bad neighborhood to get there. I don't know. That's not really the same thing, is it, Joe DeRosa? Joe DeRosa sounds a bit dumb here. So you wouldn't feel comfortable being over there. I would not feel comfortable going to a region of the world personally. No. Right now, no. But they say Saudi Arabia is very safe. But what do you cross through to get to Saudi Arabia? Yeah, good point. You're going to a country that looks good on the surface, but there's a lot of horrible things happening in the country. But also, this is how you succeed there. Do you know the jokes you do in your group chat about Jews? Yes, tell those and you'll be fine. Well, I said to my agent, I was like, I'm gonna bomb bad. They were like, they want Americans comedy over there. They have a base of 5,000 US troops. I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Riyadh, Saudi Arabia is huge. Kevin Hart's going, Tom Segura, me, Sam, Tim Dillon. Is Tim going? So Tim, yeah. Riyadh Comedy Festival. I guess if these guys are all going, that's a good gauge of it. It'll be okay. Jesus Christ. That was released August. So yeah. So a lot of these comedians don't give a fuck, basically. A lot of them really don't care. So I guess it is what it is. But when it happens in the DJ world, people go fucking nuts. People go so fucking crazy when this happens in the DJ world. So I'm curious to see when it does kind of pop up again in the DJ world, what will happen and how people will react to it when they hear it. How people will react to it when they hear it.